You have to recognize what your actual sales channels are as well. A lot of times what happens is they'll price at the consumer level and then they'll go to retail and they'll realize that the price that they're selling it on their website isn't the same price that they're going to sell it to Walmart. So I always say like price at the lowest level first, which is going to be your wholesale distributor. As long as you're making money on that smaller part, then you just tack on to that.
Welcome to Leaf Nodes, the podcast that helps your business take root and grow. I'm Adria Marshall, seasoned business owner and speaker.
And I'm Sadima Fuka, artist, illustrator, and small business owner.
Join us each week as we take you on a journey through the ups and downs of entrepreneurship. We'll dive into everything from social media strategy to protecting your business.
We'll even answer your burning questions such as, do I need a business plan? Should I form an LLC? Where should I promote my business? And so much more.
Together with our guests, we'll break down these topics into actionable steps, helping you build the business of your dreams.
So whether you're just starting or you're looking to scale, we got you covered.
So go grab your notebooks, your favorite beverage, and cozy up to receive practical insights and inspiration here on Leaf Notes. Let's go make your business dreams a reality.
Hey, Walid.
Hey.
So, you guys, it's my pleasure. Welcome, Walid, to the podcast. I don't know what to call you, so we'll let you tell me what you do. But he's gotten all of our inventory systems together, our forecasting, all that good stuff. So I'm excited for you to meet him. And I'm excited for our guests to learn all about what goes into forecasting and inventory management and operations and all the things that Walid's going to share about.
Awesome. I'm excited to hear everything.
Yeah.
And just to hear your story.
And you've heard me talk about him before, right?
Yes, so many times.
Yeah.
I think you're
All good.
all good things. I think you're the reason why she started using Katana. I think is that what it's called?
Well, it was right around the same point in time.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Walid, why don't you share a little bit about yourself, and then we'll get the conversation going.
Yeah, so pretty high level. I mean, ex-finance turned operations, a lot of operations, doing it for about 15 years. And I specialize in basically end-to-end supply chain operations planning. The way I like to put it is I'm basically like an operations mechanic. I go in, I look at either what's broken and what can be improved, and then basically optimize, clean up, fix, diagnose, put solutions in. It's pretty it. Basically make it so companies can scale without losing momentum.
He's being so modest. And what I love about Walid, I'm sure you still can think of quite a few things about our company that are still broken that you could come in with your mechanic tools and fix. But what I love about Walid is that his temperament is so humble and honest, and he gives you feedback in a very kind way so that you don't realize all the work that you really need to do to get better. And just the amount of effort that he genuinely puts into the company to making it better. So me and Walid met through Justice. We had on the podcast, and we had a conversation early on, just got to know each other a little bit better, and just put it out there that we will work together at some point. And so to your point, when we started really caring more about inventories, we were always running out of stock of everything. So that's when we started working with Walid to help us get the inventory system all hooked up. But he helped me out with so much more than that, which I want to get into too. Walid, one thing I have so much to talk about. So one thing that I loved about working with you, and I share this with people as they're looking for their business coach, is I remember our first conversation doing the SWOT exercise. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, so first before I get into that, you're saying I'm humble. You're humble as well. You should be very proud of the company you built. It's not a small thing.
Thank you.
I don't know. I don't remember how long you've been doing it, but it's an impressive thing to do, and you should be proud and congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
The
SWOT is
she will cry. She's a crier. Just something like that can set her off. So be careful.
That's not a bad thing. But your mom is eco-slaying it. But yeah, as SWOT is, it's a very traditional business tool that companies use. It stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And it's basically a way to kind of give a high-level, holistic view of your business. And basically think about the things that you wouldn't think about the day-to-day. A lot of the problems with businesses is you're so busy working in the business that you don't get to work on the business. So it's a nice little tool to step back and kind of look at what your strengths are, but what also your weaknesses are. And then opportunities, things that you might not have thought were on the horizon, but could be. and then threats, which are like your competitors, price changes, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a nice way to kind of step back, put something down on paper, and look at your whole business.
Yeah, I thought it was really great. A great way to get like a roadmap. Because what we did that exercise to listen. And what I loved about it too was that when I came to the conversation, he had already taken the liberty of listing his perception of my strengths, my weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. We were able to kind of match our list and then prioritize what's thing and then work through it.
So when you guys first met, what were your slots?
I don't remember. Do you remember? I know pricing definitely was an opportunity.
I know strengths was definitely you had your brand on point, right? Like you knew who your customer was. You had a solid product. I think the opportunities was a lot of maybe at some point stepping outside of that typical market, which you think your customer is, and expanding to a larger thing. And I know retail was definitely a conversation, and obviously a lot of opportunities. I think you were just starting, or you had just started with Amazon, so that was something you were focusing on.
That's true. So it's great to have a roadmap. And then also what he did too, I'm just singing your praises, is that he would take our plan and kind of divide it up month by month and kind of plan out when we'll be hitting each one of those points.
Nice.
Yeah, it was really, really nice.
Yeah, because everything that he's brought up, especially like with you broadening your audience and things like that, are things that have definitely transformed in the last year.
For sure. And then on the inventory side, you've seen it night and day.
Oh, yes.
Walid, and we were running out of everything before you. Everything. So I would love for you to talk a little bit about your philosophy when it comes to inventory management and forecasting, because not everybody can afford a tool like a Katana, or to have someone like you come in and shake them up. And so, what can somebody do with just an Excel sheet to help make their inventory management a little bit better?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's just a function of creating some kind of data tool, whether or not it's just someone manually typing in data entry in Excel. But if you don't know how much you have and you don't know how much you're selling, it's kind of hard to manage that. So the key aspects are like, how much inventory am I having on hand? And what's the appropriate number to keep on hand where you're not holding too much? Because the game is basically supply and demand. So your goal is to basically have enough product that you're never out of stock, but at the same time, not have so much that you're just tying up cash on stuff that's just sitting there that you could have spent on Facebook ads, that you could have spent on an employee or whatever. So it's basically that, I say that running out of stock is like a car crash, and having too much inventory is like having cancer. It's a long term, it basically chokes you out. And so that's basically the game. So it starts with one, knowing your lead time. So how fast can you make a product? Some companies will take them 3 months to get a product in stock. Some it takes 24 hours. So then depending on that, you decide, okay, well, it takes me, 3 weeks to get something in stock. I know I need to at least hold 3 weeks of product, because if I run out, it's going to take me 3 weeks to get it back in. So it's just the math. And then how much do I sell? If I'm selling 3 weeks worth of product in one day, I need to replenish faster. I need to hold more than 3 weeks. So it's a function of how long does it take to replenish, how much storage and capacity can you actually hold, and then how fast are you going to run through and turn that in. And then you just have to kind of find that optimal level.
Makes a lot of sense, right? Yeah. When you break it down, it makes so much sense. And what Walid did also, not only did he explain to us that philosophy, but he trained Avery and then Kirsten also on how to do that forecasting themselves. So because of that, we are doing a lot better of keeping the stock on hand that we really need and not keeping things around that we don't. My cash flow is a lot better. Yeah, life has been really great.
Yeah, the biggest change that we made for you guys was, instead of producing to orders, producing to make inventory and then filling the orders from the inventory. So we just added that kind of stuff.
It was so smart, and I never thought of it before, but it was so smart. So the team, I remember the week that it started, the team just batch producing product. And now we rarely run out. And so, and we know that we're going to run out, so we have time to go and do things about it.
It's not like last minute where you're trying to overnight.
Oh my God, the overnighting of stuff.
I remember those days.
It was not good. and then you spend more,
because you're
and then you're stressed.
It's like a downhill.
It was awful. It was awful before you, Wally. It was awful.
Well, yeah, I mean, like I said, I would not, again, it's always easy to be in your little bubble and see what you're doing well. But the truth is, most of the brands I work with are like 25 million, 50 million, 100 million, and they have the same problem. And like they have executives that are running Disney and they've fought like, and they still don't understand like the complexities of how it works. So everything that you were doing is the same thing everybody else is doing. It wasn't like, it's not a mistake that, like I can't believe this this is happening. But at the same, for the team you had and what you built, I would be very proud about you.
Thank you. That's a really solid point too. I was at a meeting last week with what was it? That was in a sustainable space. No, it was just in the cab manufacturing space. So I'm in a meeting with executives from Pepsi and from where else were they from? I can't remember, but companies that make a lot more money than me. So it's intimidating, right? Until you start hearing the conversations and you realize these are the same problems that I'm having. So I think that's really, really valid, and it's something that our listeners can really take to heart too. Because at first, I remember I was so intimidated. I don't get that intimidated. I was intimidated.
Really?
I was almost to the point of just walking out. Like, what can I possibly have? It was Pepsi and Hormel. Like Pepsi and Hormel, then there's me, right? And so I felt really, really intimidated until we started talking about people not showing up to work. Like, oh, I identified with that problem. And then the other problems that started listing, like, we're all having the same problems, just on a different scale.
Yeah. Wow. But that just shows how powerful a system can be.
Right.
And how far that can actually take you.
Exactly.
In your business, right?
And to Walid's point too, it's better to get these things under control when you're small than when you scale, and then a $200 problem becomes $1 million problem.
Yeah, but you already know how to handle it because you handled the $200.
Yes. Right.
Oh, I like that.
Awesome. Okay, Walid, one other thing I want you to share. There's so many things. I want you to talk a little bit about, because I have people all the time ask, I think even you asked about this, about setting prices. So Walid took me through a pricing exercise, which was invaluable, and he helped me figure out how to set prices for retail and for wholesale and for Amazon. I would love for you to share. You don't have to reveal all your secrets, but just share a little bit about how you know which margins are the best. Just like little tips that people can use to make sure that they're not going to screw future them, like I was doing at one point, because I didn't consider wholesale at all when I was setting pricing. And so how people can best set their pricing so they can always be sure to make a profit.
Yeah, so I mean, the main thing is you have to recognize what your actual sales channels are as well. A lot of times what happens is they'll price at the consumer level, and then they'll go to retail and they'll realize that the price that they're selling it on their website isn't the same price that they're going to sell it to Walmart. And then they bring in a distributor, and now that person wants to make their cut. So they don't they're basically cutting into the margins that they weren't prepared for. So I always say price at the lowest level first, which is going to be your wholesale distributor. And then as long as you're making money on that smaller part, then you just tack on to that. And if you can't make money off of that, you're probably either your product's too expensive on the cost side or you're on the wrong price point. But you basically want to figure out what you're going to charge distributors, which is usually the cheapest one, and then work on your cost. And as long as that spread's healthy, then you have a healthy margin for everything else.
Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we did that exercise last year. We're doing it again this year. Do you recommend that people do that exercise about once a year or twice a year?
So you should do the exercise quarterly, just so you know what your ingredients are costing you and you actually know if you're making money or losing money. As far as going to the market with a full price change, typically the average is every 2 years.
Every 2 years. Okay. So I put in my task list. Got it. So every quarter, and that makes a lot of sense too, because your suppliers are constantly changing their price.
I didn't really think about that.
Yeah.
Okay.
You have any questions?
No, this is just all really.
It's
I
so good.
had a question, but it wasn't about this though.
Go ahead.
So how did you already always know that you wanted to be like a mentor and teach people and help businesses, or how did you really get into this sort of field?
Yeah, so I was a horrible student back in the day. Actually, I'm a failed graphic designer. I got kicked out of graphic
Really?
design school. Yeah. But my background was finance. I'm an ex-Wall Streeter, and it just didn't really align with my character. I just fell in love with working with businesses that built physical products. So I started as a finance guy in an ice cream company. And funny enough, they were like, it was a mom and pop shop, but they were doing like 50 million in revenue. And I was the first person they hired that wasn't like a family member or whatever. And they had no clue to do with me. And I was like, how much does it cost to make this bar of ice cream? And they're like, we have no clue. Like we did the pricing 5 years ago, so we think we know it. And I was like, all right. And I got lucky enough that this ice cream company did everything in house. So the manufacturing, logistics, warehousing, everything was all on the same campus. And so I just took it upon myself to kind of go through each part of the supply chain, put together a cost, an SOP, a process, ran end to end, and just kind of fell in love with operations. And then, I was kind of, they used to call me, they used to say we would do, whenever they say we do something, we was we, basically meaning I would do the project. And actually that was 2010. And they're still one of my biggest clients today. So even, 10 years later, I'm still working with them. And, and then I got recruited over to Mattel Toy Company, and I ran the Barbie brand doing the same kind of thing. And that's when I started specializing in like forecasting, inventory management, demand planning. And that was another because every business I've been a part of has been an extreme. So you went from ice cream, which is food, milk's expiring every 24 hours. We were doing 1 million bars a day. So it was, end to end. And then you go to Barbie, which is you're pretty much making all your sales in the last of the year. And it's a public company, which means you can't go into the end of the year with too much inventory or your stock price is going to fall. And you had to predict what you were going to sell for Christmas in like June. So it was like basically a one shot number and you made it or you didn't. And so there, I learned a lot. But I also learned I didn't like working for really big companies because you couldn't, like you said, have that teaching environment, show people how to build things. And so that's when I started like scaling back, going to smaller companies, typically around like the 50 million, which is like large enough where they have the money to invest in systems. But at the same time, I get to work with people, train them, put things in place. Yeah, and I come from a family of entrepreneurs, so it's just always been my nature. I always had a disdain for executives who were so far removed that they didn't understand the business. So I've always learned that by teaching, it keeps me kind of like sharp and in the know.
Yeah.
I love that. Aw, I love your story, and what I love is that it reminds me of a lot of people who work at EcoSlay, like Avery being like a person who went the school to be a chemist, but wasn't even doing any chemistry stuff at EcoSlay until like later on. Now he's kind of doing it, but also doing other things. So it's really cool to see how much you've grown from like a small business to getting big and then being like, I'm gonna go back to what I like.
The biggest value add that has come from my career was the graphic design stuff. Like the number of times where I'll take, because I do a lot of financial stuff, the number of times I'll take that and just turn it into a pretty graph, and the executives will be like, "Oh my god, this is so cool! You're the best."
And on graphs, I haven't seen your pretty graphs, but you should see Walid in Excel. It is an art where you are able to do in Excel. I mean, I haven't seen anything like it. He can tell your entire business story on the pivot table. It is a beautiful thing.
Wow, I've
Yeah.
never heard Excel and beautiful in the same.
He makes it beautiful.
That's
Really.
amazing.
Part of that was ignorance. Like I'm self-taught in Excel, and so what had happened is I tell this story, and it's a bad story to tell because it does not make me look good, but I think it's kind of a key to success, which is, when I first graduated with my undergrad in finance, I knew I wanted to go to private finance, not public, which meant I want to do analytics and instead of doing like stocks and stuff like that. So it actually took me, even though I was getting job offer after job offer, it took me 8 months before I found the job that I actually wanted. And it was an analyst role. And so I had a meeting with the CFO, and he's like, "Do you know how to use Excel?" And I was like, "Absolutely. I'm great at it." I had never touched Excel. I didn't even know what it was. He's like, "Can you prove it to me?" I was like, "Yeah, sure. I'll send you a sample of something I did." And we had like a group project, which was like 5 people in school did a project, and someone else did the Excel thing. I literally just sent him the thing, hoping it was right. And he's like, "This is great. You start in 2 weeks." I was like, "Sweet." I went to this is like pre YouTube. Went to Barnes and Noble, got Excel for Dummies, and basically spent 2 weeks just reading Excel for Dummies. And by the time I started, I knew Excel. And the same thing with the ice cream company. You know, I got lucky enough that, with the exception of Mattel, every company I'd ever worked for before, the executives were the founders. So they weren't like MBAs who ran companies before. It was just like, husband and wife who started an ice cream company. And so our ignorance combined was just creativity, right? They were like, "Can you make us a katana in Excel?" And I'm like, I guess the inventory. So I basically made Katana their full inventory system in Excel, and they still use to this day, to the point where the company started with a T. I won't tell you the name of the company, but it started with a T, and the tool was called Tim. So Tim. It was the T and then ingredient manager, and that was the name of the tool. So to the point where like a couple of years ago, I went and visited the thing, and they're like, "Are you Tim?" And I was like, "No, Tim isn't a person. Tim is the tool." Like it got such credit that it became like its own person in the company. Yeah, the biggest skill set for entrepreneurs, and I think this is the difference between an entrepreneur and someone who like works a corporate job, is you just have to be able to figure stuff out. Like don't rely on SOP or whatever it is. Like don't expect like there's some people you'll try and hire and they're like, "If you can't train me and onboard me, I'm out of here." But there's other people that are just like, "Just tell me what to do and the goal is, and I'll figure it out myself."
100% right.
Yeah.
Like every day is different. You never know what's gonna be thrown at you.
Well, absolutely. But I've also one of my professors in college was saying that a lot of times, and people hold themselves back from really cool opportunities because they don't know this one thing that's listed as a requirement in like a job application or something, and don't even consider, hey, maybe I could actually like shoot my shot and figure it out. Like, especially with all the resources we have today.
Right.
And to be honest, like life is all about just learning, innovating, and just trying. And you know what I mean? And I feel like that's respectable too.
Mm-hmm.
You just trying.
Yeah.
Clearly, you did that, Lily, and you succeeded from that.
So I did not know that your family was a family of entrepreneurs. I know about your sister. So your sister is in the public speaking arena. I want you to talk more about what your sister does, and then I would love to hear more about your family history.
Yeah, so my sister, she runs a business called Rise Up for You. It started off as like a women empowerment kind of confidence coaching kind of thing. And then it turned into like she goes into like companies like Google and she teaches emotional intelligence and leadership and confidence and all that kind of stuff. Her background is as a performer. So she was a stage singer and then she went from singing on stage to teaching confidence on stage for singers. And then it turned into teaching confidence for executives to do TED Talks. And then it turned into going to companies. And so she has a book somewhere around here. She's like one of those 40 under 40 women and all that kind of stuff. And then yeah, I mean we're all hyper successful, but the truth is, I don't talk about it a lot. Most of us became successful after we lost our parents. And that's when it was just kind of like, okay, get your shit together, build something. And my brother's hyper successful, my sister is. There's always a reason why people do what they do.
Yeah, right. So what is your reason with art?
I never really thought about it. I think like with something like art, I think it's just the thing that I know
That you're good at?
Yeah, and it's like my own voice. You know what I mean? And it's always been my voice when I didn't even know what have words to say things. I think it's always just been an outlet for me. So then to combine that with a career, it's just like you're automatically doing what you love.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Is that what makes you get up in the morning, makes you excited?
I think so because I get to. Oh wow! I didn't know this was going to be but I guess so because it's just my own way of being seen.
Mm-hmm.
Because yeah.
I know, like with me, it was the need of hair products that weren't trash, right?
Yeah.
And be able to create something that actually worked for my hair, and then seeing how it works for other people's hair.
Mm-hmm.
And you're saying the constant problem solving. If I can create a gel, then what about a conditioner? If I can do a conditioner, then what about cleansing? What about an oil blend, right? That next challenge. And then now that I'm managing a team of people, every day is so different, but it's so much fun. I wouldn't trade for anything.
And what I love about you and your reason why is that it's something that continues to fuel you when it comes to like you have a good mentor, right? That started the eco later. Because then you're like, wait a minute, I can mentor too, because now I know what it takes to be a good mentor, right? And then same thing with Silver Sleigh, with you slowly going gray and having people around you go gray. I know you're not gray. Not gray at all. She's not gray at all.
Not gray.
But then creating products that again solve that problem in your life, but also solve everybody else's problem. I think it's so cool. I think with art it gets really tricky because it isn't like, I mean, yeah, you can make products with your art, but obviously that's going to be for people who already vibe with what you do. But I think it's a little bit difficult to feel like you're solving
a problem or filling a need.
Yeah. Even though art is needed, it's just like it's just a different kind of need than like shampoo, conditioner, clothes, right?
Right. So while we're on the topic of art, you mentioned that you originally wanted to be a graphic designer. What made you shift?
I was just a very selfish artist in the sense that I was so into it for myself that I was like, I want to draw what I want to draw. Don't tell me what to draw, kind of stuff. And I was like, I just don't want to spend my time having other people tell me how to use my creativity. So I was just like,
through that. Yes. Yes. And so with Sydney, it's funny because she lives in my basement. And I have to be your top client, right? I give you constant work to do.
You do, yeah.
So I'll know that she's behind on the task I've given her, and she'll be at the kitchen table painting something else. And I'll be pissed off because all my tasks are late. And so she can definitely be a selfish artist. But I think it's necessary, right, to feel your own color.
I think it is. I think that's what that's just how you thrive, especially when that's why a lot of times artists aren't artists as careers for that reason. So they can really keep it as like an outlet and keep it selfish because it isn't the same when you're, I mean, it can be fun doing work for other people, but it isn't the same. And that's why when you make an original and someone buys it for like $3,000, you're like, I can pay my bills. I can do what I want. Right. So, yeah. So I get it.
I think what happens with most art, so there's a reason why you do something, and then there's the way that why manifests. And so I think what happens with a lot of artists, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but what happens is they like art because it fulfills a certain why, and they don't explore it, and they're just like, okay, this is my comfort zone. So for me, I was into art, but I also got into philosophy, and philosophy made me see the art in mathematics. And so I got off on just building stuff. So taking math, building, like I'm a builder, and that's why I would rather work for a company that makes products than finance on Wall Street. It's because it's the building aspect to me, which speaks to the artist in me. It's like taking a blank supply chain or an idea, a recipe for a hair or whatever, and then coming out, and it's like painting a canvas, mapping out everything, and then coming out at the end with a finished product that people could use. And so I just learned how to. I think it's one of those things like you can either do what you love or you can love what you do. And I just kind of figured a way to make a match.
I think what's really interesting about what you said is that I think a lot of times people separate like analytical stuff and art. They're like you either do either or, either analytical or you're artsy or whatever. But the way that you described it makes it seem like you infused almost your art or your eye for design in a way to what you do now. And my question to you is, do you believe that analytical stuff and art can merge together and be intertwined?
Yeah, absolutely. I know when I mentor people, I always figure out if they're more analytical or more artistic, and whatever they are, I focus on the opposite. So for someone who's really artistic, they got that down. They don't need me to teach them anything. So it's like, let me try and tap into your analytical side. So, working in what I do with analytics, there's a lot of times where I work with like accountants and forecasters. They're just so analytical. They can't think creatively. It's just numbers on a page and that's all they know. They can't think about like how the marketing team thinks. Like one of my, I don't want to call it special skills or whatever, but I'm one of those guys that I could talk to the finance guy, I could talk to the marketing guy, I could talk to the sales guy, I could talk to the operations. It's because I could put myself in their mindset, where a lot of people are like, I'm an accountant, I only think like an accountant. Or I'm a marketer, I don't even care about the numbers, I just care about the branding and the sizzle reel and all the fun stuff. So yeah, I mean, I think everything, if you're going to be successful, is a fusion of art and science. And I think you need to learn how to find the science in art, and you need to learn how to find the art in science. I'm very bad with math. I said I was a pretty bad kid when I was younger. I tried to get put into the military. I actually failed the math exam to get into the army. Like I was so bad with math. But I'm good with patterns, which to me is, I consider an art. I guess it's a science. Like I can look at a bunch of numbers and spot the pattern right away. Like whenever they put those little Facebook quizzes and they're like, no one can figure this out. Like this is the easiest they ever see. You just look at the pattern. But so I'm good at patterns more than I am math. And then I learned math through philosophy. But yeah, you definitely need to know both.
That ties in well with the quote that you put on your form. And it's my favorite quote. I've never heard this quote before, and I'd love to hear where it came from. But I am going to post
it. Kept me up at night.
Did it really?
It did. It really
good.
You want to read it out loud?
I'm going to read it out loud. Yeah. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. When I read this, I said, Walid, you better preach. That is so profound. Where did it come from?
Usually Aristotle gets the credit for it. There's debate whether he said it or not, but it's an Aristotle quote.
It's freaking brilliant. Why did it keep you up?
I think because it just makes you self-reflect about like your actions.
Yes.
I think obviously you should always love yourself and be like, yeah, I'm great. But then when you being able to hold yourself accountable and look at your patterns and see, have I really been showing up for myself in the way that I need to be excellent?
Yeah.
I mean, that should just be like a journal prompt or just something to always revisit every month, however often you need to, every week, to be like, how did I do this week? Yeah, so I think that's why it kept me up, because it just made me think about just my actions and how I'm spending my time and making sure, like, my productivity and all those things, you know what I mean? Because I do want to be the best version of myself, but am I really acting on that?
So on that note, Walid, how do you hold yourself accountable, and what are your next goals, like in life or your business or personally, all that good stuff?
Yeah, so I've just recently decided to work for myself. I guess build a consulting company. I've always parallel pathed. I've always held, an executive role and done consulting on the side. I've just probably within the last 4 or 5 months decided I'm just gonna be a consultant and build that business out.
I give myself the credit for this. We were such an amazing client of yours, right? That we.
Sure. I mean, I mean, we're the funnest. Like when you get to a certain, it's like anything. Like the learning curve is exponential. So to take someone, and I'm not saying you start, like I'll take myself for example. I'm on like this journey of trying to get healthy. So for me to get healthy, to go from 0 to 1 is a lot easier and more value add than to take someone who's an athlete and trying to get them to go health, right? So it's like the bigger a company gets, the more effort it takes to take to the next level. So working with smaller brands, it's a lot more impactful, a lot more value. I mean, I think the biggest thing we did, which wasn't even in the game plan, was the packaging size thing, right? Like that wasn't even on the radar. You know what I mean? So that's the cool thing about working with smaller brands.
Yeah.
So my goal right now is I'm pretty minimalist in my lifestyle. So my goal is to make the business enough money where I could then turn it into an incubator and I can start buying into my clients. So, I'm probably thinking like 2.5 million. And then once I turn them 2.5 million, I'll turn it from a consulting practice to an actual like portfolio where I'm buying into brands and then running it through my incubator. And I'll just own like a part of the company and just build a giant portfolio of these CBD brands. And then I have a charity passion project that I do on the side. So I got most of my goals are around the charity. So.
Cool. So I think I interrupted you when you were going to answer the question about holding yourself accountable. So what tips do you have that you like to implement in holding yourself accountable and that we can share with other people? Because based on that quote, I think we had a little bit of work to do.
Yeah, so the reason I like that quote so much is because to me, it speaks to the operator in me. It's a very SOP type of thing. It's like your habits are your rituals, and your rituals can be planned to a point where you're doing it automatically. And so like I haven't been to the gym in the last 20 years, but maybe 3 or 4 times. I've just now hit 35 days in a row. And the way I did it is like
Wow.
I basically just set up a SOP or whatever. I put a process, and every place where there was a friction point that would make me not want to go to the gym, I solved it. So I treated it like it was like a client. And so like I got to the point where I would come downstairs, walk the dog, and then I'd go back upstairs to like wash my face, get ready for the gym. So I moved all my stuff downstairs to the downstairs bathroom, so I didn't have to go back upstairs. If I'd sit down to put my socks on, I would turn the TV on and I'd get lazy. So I went out and I researched shoes that I could wear to the gym where I don't have to wear socks. And then I turned I took the laces out of the shoes and I turned them into slip-ons. And I put them right in the bathroom when I go wash my face. So I go wash my face, I use the restroom, I put my shoes on, and the restroom is right next to the garage, and I go straight out. So basically any stopping point I eliminated. And so now it's so easy that now I've done 30 days. The only reason I've done 35 days in a row is because I stopped one day and I was like, this just messed up my whole morning. I feel funky. So now I just go every day just to keep that same kind of rhythm. And so now it's not even a function of discipline. It's like, because discipline, you try to do something that you don't really want to do.
That's awesome.
I really like that the idea of just getting anything
out your way.
That's like that you notice that's in your way, out your way. Because I think, because me.
It's professional. Go ahead.
For me, I think it's my phone.
Yeah.
I can get really stuck, like doom scrolling, or just I can get distracted really easily. And it's crazy how I can be like really deep into a project, but then like my notifications might be on, and I hear it, and I'm on my phone, and I even forget to respond to the person who notified me, but I'm scrolling.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like it just like reminding me that's there. So this is really inspiring to sort of like put up, boundaries and evaluate what's in my way.
Right.
Yeah.
This is so good.
This is really good. So I remember my question. So my other question was, what do you think it takes to be a good mentor? I know I asked you, Mom, but I want to ask a mentor.
So I will start off by saying I don't consider myself a mentor. Some people, I say what I think, and for some people it resonates and it makes sense. But there's plenty of advice I probably gave your mom where she's like, "This guy's an idiot. I'm not." And there's certain things that she's like, "Okay, that makes sense." What makes a good mentor is a good student. Like if your student is bad, you're not really doing anything. You're just talking to white space. So being a good mentor is you tell someone what you think. It gets their idea going. They're not just taking what you're saying and parodying it. They're actually thinking it for themselves, analyzing it, maybe tweaking it. They're doing it themselves. But then you see that and you get excited. You're okay. They took something I said, they processed it, they made a choice, they're implementing it, and so that's the exchange. It's a relationship between two people. It's not like just a teacher talking. So that relationship is, I guess, I would say what makes me a good mentor is that I like to see people succeed. And if I can help them on that journey, I'm just gonna keep doubling down and helping.
It's so true. And Walid was there for me when we were doing this pricing thing. I remember the day that I was freaking out. Walid, I'm sure you remember that after we rolled out the pricing, we got almost 0 sales. And to whatever it was, that I was devastated. I think it was on a Saturday. I don't remember what it was, but I called Walid and he just tolerated me. He was so patient with me. He was like, remember we said this was going to happen. And he was right. And it was like a turning point. That and changing of the size of the pouches. Those two things. And the inventory. I mean, those just major things. And the pricing. Yeah, just this good stuff. And I don't mean when I say pricing, there was one pricing aspect which was adjusting the prices. But another one was making me go through the arduous task of figuring out how much everything costs, and then make sure that all the margins were
kind of like what you made me do.
Kind of like what I made you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Wally, you should know that the next episode that me and Sydney will have is where we revisit this conversation, and we take out our notes and we create an action plan based on a lot of things that you said. And I have a list already of some good stuff.
I have a list for me.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Thank you so much. Where can people find you? What things do you have to offer people to help them in their business right now? And I think that's it. So share where people can find you and what you have going on right now that can help people's businesses a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, my name is that across all platforms, so LinkedIn, Instagram. Happy to do, 15-minute, 20-minute consulting call if it helps people. Yeah, I mean, here to help anybody who needs it. So next business is we need to start. What's Sydney's goal? Let me dig in a little bit. What's your goal?
Go for it.
Oh gosh,
Yes.
what is my goal?
Go.
Because here's the thing, you said something which made sense, but I want to see how you connect the dots. Because in business, what happens is a lot of people always be like, well, just find a problem to solve, and that's your business. So, but in art, that's kind of a hard thing to do, right? You can't really say you're solving a problem. So how do you bridge that gap between like building a business out of being an artist without necessarily having a problem?
So for me, I think one of my biggest goals is just to make the world more colorful and more whimsical, and to inspire other artists with maybe other setbacks who maybe have, because I'm visually impaired. And I create very like detailed artwork for my personal art. And so for that, I just want to make the world more colorful. I want to inspire other artists that they can do it too. And no matter what is maybe holding them back, whether it's eyesight related or if it's mental health related or anything like that. And yeah, and so that's led to me like putting my artwork, like I hand press them onto hoodies and stuff like that. But I also sell prints. I also do like originals, just like making it also accessible for people too.
All right, Walid, get her.
Oh no!
No, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, there's different ways of looking at everything. So the reason I asked, and I spoke to this about the why thing. I was talking to a girl a couple weeks ago, and she was an artist, singer, and then now she's DJing. And I'm like, okay, what is this? Are you happy? She's like, not really. And she realized, she's like, music makes me happy, but she hasn't found the manifestation of what that is. Right? So I'm like, why does music make me happy? Well, it makes me feel a certain way, and I get to share it. And okay, well, like you could be a producer, you could be an artist, you could be a DJ. Like there's 1,000 things you could be. And so I'm just curious to like how you, because I've seen some of your stuff, and I was very impressed. And again, as an ex-artist or something, I've always had and it could just be the I was never secure enough to follow that path. So I'm always curious to hear someone who did, speak it out loud. But there's a definite need there is a problem that's being solved. And the problem that's being solved is the people who don't have your skill and need to. Because most people are visual people, but most people aren't artists, right? So that find a way of marketing yourself. So like I could translate what it is you're feeling and thinking and wanting to say, and you don't have the ability to make it.
Wow. Well, I love your perspective. You make it. I feel like I have more purpose. I know it sounds so like profound, but no.
You can sign for the 15-minute consultation.
Possibly. Yeah. I mean, because
like the first company I went into, I said that the one that I was talking about, the Excel thing. All I did was there was a person that was there before me, and they did a financial report. And so I was just doing the same thing they did. I didn't do anything. I took their financial report. And then I decided, because I don't want to just copy what somebody else did, I took the financial report, and on the numbers that were positive, I put a little green arrow next to it. And the ones that were red, they had a little red arrow. And I turned that into the CEO, and the CEO was like, this is mine. This is so awesome. This guy's so amazing. And because he was a visual person, he wasn't a numbers person. So when you see this report with numbers, you'd just be like, this is so much. But you just see little arrows, you're like, cool, there's more green than red. I'm in a good spot.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you. This was
so good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Walid, so much. It was so insightful. I can't wait for us to dig into all this stuff.
Me too. I actually might have to watch the recording.
I think
and take notes. Also. I should have been taking notes now. But thank you so much.
Thanks for your time, Walid. See you soon.
Thank you for listening to Leaf Notes. If you're watching on YouTube, go ahead and drop a like and a comment letting us know what your takeaway was. And if you're just listening, head over to social media after taking a screenshot and tag us letting us know what your takeaway was. If you want to give us a rating, head over to your favorite podcast app and give us a 5-star rating or let us know what you think. This will help us connect with more business owners and creatives just like you. And with that being said, we hope that your business takes root and grows, and we'll see you next time.